So this week I had a customer show up and trying to trade in his phone down at T-Mobile, and he didn't know his Apple password. So he went in there and they got him a new phone and erased his old phone, and he couldn't get into his account. And so he was locked out of all his Facebook and his Instagram and all his, really everything he had. And they did make him a new account and his apps transferred. But when your apps are tied to an original Apple ID and you don't have access to that password, it's really hard to get back in there. And since he didn't have his old phone, he was unable to look up the password or do any of the two-factor authentication steps to get it figured out. And I see this problem all the time, basically every single day. My name is Andrew. I've got about 40 years of tech experience. I've been doing this since the late 80s, and I still do this. I have my own shop in my little town here, and I am now being led to bring it online to the masses, as I do have a massive amount of information. I worked at a CompUSA in the 90s and in the 2000s, met my wife there. We love tech, and we love helping people with their tech. And I'm just a small shop here in Missouri, but I've been doing this kind of work for nearly 40 years, since the late 80s. And yes, my first phone I fixed was in the late 80s, like the Zach Morris type phone. I remember it was a Motorola of some sort. But I am finding more and more that the big three carriers are more interested in selling you a new phone or signing you up for another line and giving you a phone. And it's causing so many issues for so many people. One of the biggest things that I see that kind of frustrate people is a lot of people who have Gmail for their email, and nothing wrong with that. But Apple creates its own email when you sign up and set it all up. And when you use your Gmail address, again, not a problem, people end up getting their passwords mixed up, because Apple is one of those that requires a capital letter, a number, a special character, and it needs to be at least 8 digits long. Whereas Gmail, you can make your password almost anything. And so when you get those two confused, especially with the Apple side, once you type it in too many times, I think it's 5, it will lock you out. If you type it in too many times in a short amount of time, it'll lock you out. And then the only way you're going to be able to get back in is by going to an Apple store and waiting an entire day, basically. And you need to have an ID, and it's just a real frustrating process. So you go to the store and you get a new phone. And while you're setting it up, you keep getting all these two-factor authentications, the 6-digit codes here, there, all over the place. And most people think that you need to write these down. These codes are temporary. They're 30 seconds long is all they're good for, sometimes a minute, sometimes 10 minutes. But I just felt like I needed to reach out and start telling people about this kind of stuff, because I see it all the time. Another big problem is when people have their Apple ID. You don't use it very often. You use it for signing into your Apple account. You use it for signing out of your Apple account. You use it for downloading apps, but you do not use it very often for that one unless it's a paid app. And when people set their phone up, you set it up with the facial recognition, or you set it up with a PIN code. And so you may make this password that's very unique to Apple, and then you'll forget it. And when you forget it, it will not let you reset it unless you have the original device it was listed on or created on. And it also won't allow you to reset it unless you have, oh goodness, the original device, the phone number, information. When you set it up with a debit card, it requires you to have the security code, and that's how it uses. So if you've added a debit card to your account, and it's how it uses to tell you what you're doing. And the really cruddy part is that it requires you to know a debit card from 5 years ago or 7 years ago, depending on how old your phone is, and none of us still have that card. And so that's another reason why you must have the original phone and know what that password is before you upgrade, or else you end up losing everything. Another thing I see all the time is you break your phone and you go to the carrier. So you have an iPhone or an Android and you go over to whatever your carrier is, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, it doesn't really matter. And you walk in and you say, my phone's broken. And they say to you, oh, do you have insurance? And you say, no. And then you say, what can you do for me? And they say, give us that broken phone. And you don't have access to it. And then they give you another phone. And when they do that, they're giving you a new line, a new contract, all this stuff. And a lot of people end up carrying multiple lines on their plan that they're not using attached to their phone. And it's highly problematic. What you should do instead, or at least what I recommend people do, is get your screen fixed. Once you get your screen fixed, and it's not very expensive to do, you'll at least be able to verify your stuff, transfer your data, and get everything you need off of that phone safely. It's incredibly important. When you lose all that stuff and you have to go to an expert to try to get it back, there's only so much we can do. And yeah, we can replace the apps, but you may lose access to all the stuff you've done on those apps over the last 5, 10, 15 years or however long you've been using it for. So I guess all I'm trying to say here is when you get yourself a new phone, make sure you know all your passwords. Most importantly, the Apple ID password, your Google password, your Samsung password. Those are the three that are the most important by far. And if you do not have them, you are going to have one hell of a time trying to figure out how to trade that phone in and keep your stuff. The phone carriers will always take your phone. They will always give you a new phone. They'll make it sound like this great deal. But what's more important to me, and what I assume is more important to you, is keeping your information and keeping your information safe. If you don't, then crazy things will happen. So if this video helped you today, I just wanted to say thank you for watching, and look for more of our videos here, because we're going to be releasing a whole bunch of stuff, giving tips about phones and all sorts of electronics. Please subscribe to my channel, CompUSA. I'll be posting videos every few days, at least once or twice a week. And I just want to spread my tech expertise to all the people out there that don't want to get scammed. And that's what we do here. I hope you have a great day, and thank you very much for watching.